If you're someone who talks a lot but still feels unheard, you prepare what you're going to say. You know your material, but when you speak, you watch people's eyes glaze over. They nod politely, but you can tell they're not really tracking. And the worst part, you can feel yourself rambling in real time, but you don't know how to stop. In the next few minutes, I'll show you the sentence structure that makes everything you say land with impact. You'll learn the exact format top speakers use to deliver ideas in under 10 seconds with full authority. You'll see why your current approach buries your best points. And you'll walk away with a framework you can use in your next presentation, meeting, or conversation. Drop clarity in the comments and I'll send you the 10-second clarity drill. This is a guide to the conclusion first format, 5 before and after message transformations, and a practice template for restructuring your own rambling ideas into powerful statements. Drop clarity below and it's yours. I've spent 20 plus years studying communication science and vocal performance. I've trained executives, coaches, and leaders who speak publicly. My focus is not motivation, it's mechanics, the structure of language, the physics of how messages land. And what I've learned is this: the difference between being heard and being ignored often comes down to how you structure a single sentence. You're using 50 words where 10 would land harder. Every time you bury your main point in the middle of a long explanation, you lose your listener. They're not waiting for the payoff. They're already planning their next question or checking their phone. You think you're being thorough, but what you're actually doing is training people to tune you out. Your sentences sound like suggestions, not commands. The structure of a sentence determines how it's received. If you hedge, meander, or front load with caveats, your message arrives weak. You might have the right idea, but the way you're packaging it makes it sound optional, uncertain, like you're asking permission instead of stating reality. Most people were never taught that sentence structure determines reception. You've been told to be clear, to get to the point. But no one ever showed you how to architect a sentence so the point lands first. You default to the structure you learned in school: setup, context, then conclusion. That works for essays. It fails in real-time communication. You think being thorough means front-loading all the context. You believe if you explain the background first, people will understand the conclusion better. But the opposite is true. Without knowing where you're going, listeners can't process the context. They're waiting for the point, and the longer you make them wait, the less they care when it finally arrives. You confuse length with authority. Somewhere along the way, you learn that important ideas require long explanations. That brevity sounds superficial, but the most powerful speakers do the opposite. They state the conclusion in one sentence, then they prove it. The structure itself becomes the authority. Front-loaded conclusions activate decision-making circuits faster. When you state your point first, the listener's brain immediately begins processing whether to accept or reject it. That creates engagement. When you bury the point, their brain stays in passive listening mode, waiting for structure. Research on sentence processing shows that clarity isn't about simplicity, it's about predictable architecture. Parallel structure and rhythmic pacing make sentences sound inevitable. When you use repeating grammatical patterns and intentional pauses, your speech begins to feel crafted, not improvised. Listeners perceive structure as confidence, and confidence translates to authority. The sentence itself becomes proof that you know what you're talking about. Learn the conclusion first format. This is the structure that makes everything land harder. You state the point, you support it with proof, you close with action. 3 beats, no meandering. The listener knows where you're going from the first 5 words. Start with your main claim in under 10 words. Your opening sentence should be the thing you want them to remember. Not the setup, not the context, the claim itself. Example, this project is behind schedule. Why? That's the conclusion. Everything that follows is evidence, but the conclusion comes first. Imagine you're giving feedback in a leadership meeting. Weak version. So I've been thinking about the timeline, and there are a few factors we probably need to discuss because it seems like maybe we're not on track, depending on how you look at it. Strong version. We're 3 weeks behind. Here's why, and here's what we do next. Same message, different structure. The second one sounds like leadership. Don't front load with context or qualifiers. If your first sentence is given the current market conditions and the feedback we've received, you've already lost them. That's setup, not conclusion. Move the claim to the front, then layer in the context as proof. The mistake is thinking context makes your point stronger. It doesn't. It delays reception. Practice delivering your key message in under 10 seconds. This is not about speaking faster. It's about eliminating everything that isn't the core claim. You're training yourself to recognize filler in real time, and you're building the muscle of stating the conclusion without hedging. Record yourself stating your message, then cut it in half. Take any message you're preparing to deliver. Record it once with no time limit. Then listen back and identify the one sentence that carries the entire point. Re-record using only that sentence plus one supporting fact. Your target is 10 seconds or less. Full vocal authority, no filler. Imagine you're recommending a strategy shift to your team. Weak version, I've been looking at the data, and there are some trends that suggest we might want to think about adjusting our approach, possibly in the next quarter, if that makes sense. Strong version, we need to pivot now. The data shows a 22% drop in engagement over 30 days. Here's the new plan. The second version is 9 seconds, and it sounds like a decision, not a discussion. Don't add disclaimers or softening language. The impulse to say, I think, or maybe, or it seems like, comes from fear of being wrong. But those phrases don't protect you. They weaken your message. If you're not certain, don't speak yet. If you are certain, state it like you mean it. The structure should reflect your conviction. Restructure 5 rambling messages into powerful statements. This is where the framework becomes automatic. You take real examples from your own communication, emails, presentations, conversations, and rewrite them using conclusion-first structure. You're not changing what you say. You're changing the order. Identify your buried conclusions and move them to the front. Go back through your recent emails or meeting notes. Find 5 places where you explained context before stating the point. Rewrite each one with the conclusion first, then read both versions out loud. You'll hear the difference immediately. The restructured version sounds confident. The original sounds apologetic. Sentence structure determines whether your message lands as a command or a suggestion. You've seen the conclusion first format, you've practiced delivering your key message in under 10 seconds, and you've restructured real examples using the framework. The difference isn't vocabulary, it's architecture. When you state the point first, support it with proof, and close with action, your speech sounds intentional, crafted, impossible to ignore. This is one piece of the powerful Speakology system. The sentence structure you just learned is part of a larger framework for designing and delivering messages that land in any speaking arena. Powerful Speakology teaches you how to architect entire presentations, control vocal delivery, and command attention from the first word. If you want the full system, it's available. But even this one shift, conclusion first, it will change how people receive everything you say. Your ideas start landing the first time you say them. You walk into meetings and people lean in. You send an email and get immediate clarity, not confusion. You deliver a message and watch people's faces shift from passive listening to active processing. Because you're no longer burying your point. You're stating it, supporting it, and moving on. The structure itself becomes your authority. Drop clarity in the comments right now. I'll send you the 10-second clarity drill, the conclusion first format guide, 5 before and after transformations, and a practice template for restructuring your own rambling messages. This is the drill I use with executives and coaches who need to sound certain. Drop clarity below and it's yours.